A world war is over. The French are beaten in America and are collapsing around the world. This is not 1940, but 1763, and the American colonies are secured. After the end of the 7 Years' War, the British were not merciful at the peace conference. They decided to strip France of its North American colonies, which included all claims to the Ohio River Valley, which had started the war, and those who challenged the law and settled were ejected and punished severely. These restrictions would cause the colonists to see the crown differently for the first time. The war caused insane amounts of debt that the British needed repaid. To help sustain themselves, the Brits began to tax the colonies. The taxes included sugar and paper products. These went over terribly with the colonists, who protested and boycotted foreign goods, which just so happened to be British. For those who do not know, the system of mercantilism ensured that only British goods were imported to the British colonies. The simple act of boycott caused the British economy to almost collapse, and they would soon repeal the taxes, but not for good. In 1767, a new set of taxes would be levied upon the colonists. These new taxes were collectively called the Townshend Acts, after this fine gentleman here. They included a tax on imports to the colonies as well as one on tea. This especially after the Sugar and Stamp Acts caused huge upheaval in the colonies, especially in the major city centers, such as Boston, Philadelphia, and Charlestown, due to the higher tea consumption and necessity of imported goods like furniture. In February of the next year, a group in Boston would convene and write a letter to convince the colonies to work together in the matter. In 1768, the trading sloop Liberty, ironically owned by John Hancock, was seized for allegedly smuggling French-made goods into port. This sparked a riot and caused the British customs officers to flee. The same year, British Parliament sparked more outrage by issuing the Treason Act, dating back to the mid-1500s. The act made sure that those outside of mainland England would face trial in England herself. It would not be passed due to widespread outrage all over the colonies, and even some in England. In March 1770, a group of colonists in Boston gathered around a small detachment of British soldiers. It started as a small confrontation, then an argument, then ice, rocks, and snow were being lobbed at the soldiers. No one knows who called for the order to fire, but the only important part is that they did, and they killed 3. They were tried and acquitted by none other than future President John Adams. The massacre was a turning point for many, cementing anti-British sentiment around the colonies. In 1772, the Sons of Liberty boarded and burned the HMS Gaspee, a customs ship from the British. I see a similarity to a future event here somewhere. I just need to find it. Ah, yes! A year later, the same group of men would commence the Boston Tea Party, where they would throw boxes of tea into the Boston harbor, dressed as natives. In 1774, the Boston Tea Party's effects are shown around the world, and more people are seeking to break away from the crown. The British began imposing punitive measures onto Massachusetts. These acts are collectively known as the Intolerable Acts. This was collectively the call to prepare for many people who began to collect arms and artillery for a possible conflict. A general boycott was called by the Continental Congress, which gathered together for the first time that September. Stick around for part 2 and 3 coming out shortly. Thanks for watching.